of the trust were pleased with her answers. My attention drifted as I watched her work. The 3 women who had been the Morrigan before me were in the back of my consciousness, also listening in on the meeting. Unsurprisingly, they had also become bored with the discussions at hand, and they decided to butt in with their comments without permission. "Poor dear should have known better than to go out in public dressed like that," came Gran's voice. I wasn't certain which member of the trust she was talking about, but it didn't seem like the comment was meant for Natalie. Mirren answered. "Who does that man over there? Yeah, the one in the checkered tie. Who does he think he's fooling? Everybody here knows that's a bad dye job." "Well, the woman at the end of the row is wearing a wig, I bet," Gran added with a snort. "Shush, ladies," Caroline Bain's stern voice admonished her cousin and sister. "Angelica is trying to listen." Then to me she added, "I'm so sorry about them, my dear." Oh, it's all humdrum anyway," Mirren groaned. "I would have had to have a drink by now. Ange, would you mind?" I refrained from sighing so that the people around me wouldn't think I was bored of the meeting. "Yes, actually, I do mind. I don't keep your Glenfiddich in the office anyway. It will have to wait until I get back to the castle." Sure, Mirren grumbled. She muttered something incoherent that was probably more cursing than anything else. "What was that she said?" Gran asked. Caroline replied, "Mirren is just saying that Angelica ought to keep her office stocked for this kind of emergency." "Would it be such a hardship to keep a bottle of whiskey in the car?" Mirren added. "It's not like alcohol can affect your driving." "Seriously, Mirren? Shut up!" I realized all eyes were on me. Someone had asked me a question, and with all the rambling going on in my head, I had failed to hear what it was. The chairman of the board looked at me with an expectant expression. Fuck, I thought. What the hell did he ask? The 3 women in my head hadn't the faintest idea. I started with a smile, hoping to ease myself back into the meeting. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Brightman. I was distracted for a moment and didn't quite hear your question." I didn't get to finish my sentence. A tremendous explosion from the floor below where the meeting was being held rattled the whole room. The huge windows opposite the table shattered into a million pieces, sending people sprawling to the floor and under the tables. I hit the floor with a groan, more from shock than pain. My Morrigan abilities made it so the pain didn't come as sharply to my body as it used to. I crawled under the table to the nearest person, who happened to be Natalie Kimber. Her eyes were wide and her mouth hanging open. Fresh blood ran down the side of her head where she had been hit with shards of glass. "Are you okay?" I shouted over the chaos of screaming and shouting. Natalie was speechless with shock, but she managed a nod. I lifted my head just as the doors to the conference room burst open. Relief filled me when I saw it was Teg Singh. His abilities and friendship made him more than just any regular bodyguard. Teg was speaking into a walkie-talkie. Garbled words came back to him through the static, but I couldn't hear what was being said. I scrambled to my feet and over-sprawled trust members to where he stood. Relief flooded his expression when his eyes met mine. Sounds from beyond the room and outside the broken windows came to us. The air was filled with the cries of the wounded and the screams of the terrified. The rumbling sound of the building's structural instability filled my ears. Another advantage that came with my Morrigan abilities was keener hearing than most humans had. Tag and I looked at one another again. Our shared glance told us both that the other knew what was going to happen. The floor we stood on would not be there much longer. We had to get the people the hell out of there, and fast. "Come on, everyone! We need to get moving!" I shouted. The people were too frightened to move, so Teg jumped in with some of his men. We began pulling people to their feet and either ushering or herding them from the room, depending on their level of shock and response. Some of them had to be dragged. I lifted an older man by his underarms and set him on unsteady feet. "Come on, it's not safe to stay in here anymore." The man remained mute, but allowed me to lead him from the room. I glanced at Teg and asked him a silent question. "Have you called for help?" He nodded and turned to herd 3 women toward the exit. The key was for both of us to stay calm, but to press urgency. At last, we had them all out of the room, just as the rumble in the structure below us grew louder. At least, I had thought we had them all. A strangled cry sounded out behind me.